Today we honor the brave men and women who served our country by making this video. To start things off, I will give you some background information on Veterans Day. Veterans Day was first celebrated in Birmingham, Alabama in the year 1947. Veterans Day was previously known as Armistice Day. Armistice Day was declared a holiday by President Wilson on November 11, 1919. Armistice Day was celebrated on November 11th like Veterans Day is now. Armistice Day was created to celebrate the peace treaty that was signed to mark the end of World War I. World War II veteran Raymond Weeks started the celebration of Veterans Day in 1947. 7 years later, in 1945, President Dwight Eisenhower declared November 11th as Veterans Day. Veterans Day was founded to honor those who served in the United States military. They typically honor veterans by placing a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier at precisely 11 a.m.
In September of 1939, World War II, Hitler's forces invaded Poland, driving Britain and France to declare war on Germany, thus starting a world war that lasted 6 years and claimed millions of lives. Specifically, 16,113,566 Americans served in the armed force during this time. World War II cost us 400,000 American lives, according to the Defense Casualty Analysis System. Of those who served, approximately 66,000 remain alive today. We honor those brave men and women who gave their lives, but today is about honoring and thanking the veterans among us. From World War II to the Korean War, which began on June 25, 1950 and lasted 3 years, then ended on July 27, 1953. The Korean War began as a result of the division of Korea after World War II. Ideologically, conflicts between the North and South, and the border Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. The invasion of South Korea by North Korean forces in June 1950 triggered a full-scale conflict that lasted until 1953, when an armistice was signed, though no formal peace treaty was ever concluded, leaving the peninsula technically still at war. The U.S. led the United Nations military response, providing a bulk of the troops of the resources to support South Korea. Approximately 1.8 million American soldiers served in the Korean War. 36,000 U.S. soldiers died in this war. The average age of a veteran of the North Korean War is 90 to 95 years old. Since the war has been over 70 years, the number of veterans that are still alive is decreasing, but there are still approximately 240,000 still alive. If you know a veteran, make sure to thank them for serving our country and putting their life on the line.
The Vietnam War was a violent chapter in our nation's history. It was marked by profound challenges, both on the battlefield and at home. Our veterans faced not only the rigors of combat, but also the weight of a divided society that often failed to recognize their sacrifices. They answered the call of duty, stepping forward to defend our nation, knowing the risks and uncertainties that lay ahead. To our Vietnam veterans, you displayed incredible courage in the face of adversity. You fought in harsh conditions and often against an enemy that was as determined as you were. You adapted to the complexities of the puzzle that is warfare and persevered through the experiences that would test the limits of any person's strength. You did not do this for your glory or recognition. You did it for your fellow soldiers, your families, and for the ideals of freedom and democracy. Returning home, many of you faced not only physical scars, but also emotional and psychological wounds that were often overlooked. Yet, despite the challenges, you have shown remarkable resilience. You have rebuilt your lives, contributed to your communities, and worked to ensure that future generations understand the lessons of your service. As we commend you today, let us also acknowledge the importance of healing and support. We must ensure that every veteran receives the care they deserve, both during and after their service. It is our duty to honor not just your past, but to advocate for your present and future. Today, we stand united to express our profound gratitude. We recognize your bravery, your sacrifice, and your unwavering spirit. We promise to remember the lessons of the Vietnam War, to honor your legacy, and ensure that your contributions are never forgotten. Thank you for your service, thank you for your sacrifice, and thank you for your courage. You are, and always will be, our heroes.
Today, in honor of Veterans Day, we want to thank the servicemen and women that sacrificed their lives so that all Americans could have the freedoms we have today. The two wars I will be speaking on today are the Gulf War and the Iraq War, two wars that took immense effort from all American soldiers and involved and cost the lives of many. The Gulf War, which took place from 1990 to 1991, was a pivotal moment in modern history. When Iraq forces under the leadership of Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, it threatened global stability and the security of vital oil resources in the Middle East. In response, a coalition of 34 nations, led by the United States, launched Operation Desert Shield to defend Saudi Arabia and later transitioned into Operation Desert Storm to liberate Kuwait. To defeat the Iraq army, soldiers worked tirelessly in a 100-hour campaign that eventually drove the Iraq army out of Kuwait. Throughout this campaign, 258 American soldiers' lives were lost. So today, we come together to remember those 258 brave men and women. To all the veterans who participated in the Gulf War, thank you for your service, for your sacrifices, and for the example of heroism you set for all of us. To all of you, your contributions will never be forgotten. The Iraq War, which began in 2003 with the invasion of Iraq by the United States and coalition forces, was a complex and challenging conflict that reshaped the Middle East and had lasting global consequences. The mission, initially aimed at eliminating Saddam Hussein's regime and neutralizing the threat of weapons of mass destruction, quickly evolved into a prolonged struggle involving counterinsurgency operations, sectarian violence, and the fight against terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda. In Iraq, which later morphed into ISIS. For nearly a decade, U.S. and coalition forces worked tirelessly to bring stability to a nation torn by war. While facing immense challenges on the battlefield and at home, to the veterans of the Iraq War, we owe an immense debt of gratitude. Thank you for the sacrifices you made for us, and to the 4,492 U.S. service members that lost their lives in honor of our country, your efforts have not been forgotten.
The Afghanistan War began in October of 2001 after the September 11 terrorist attacks on the United States carried out by the Al-Qaeda group led by Osama bin Laden. In response to this, the U.S. government sought to dismantle Al-Qaeda and eliminate its base in Afghanistan. They demanded that the Taliban regime, which was in power of sheltering bin Laden, surrender him and expel Al-Qaeda. When the Taliban refused, the United States, along with international allies, launched military operations on October 7, 2001. This marked the start of a long conflict and aimed at removing the Taliban from power and establishing a stable government in Afghanistan. The Afghanistan War has resulted in a profound loss of life since its onset. Approximately 2,400 U.S. military personnel have died during the conflict, along with around 1,100 coalition troops from allied nations. The Afghan National Security Forces have faced staggering casualties, with estimates indicating over 66,000 Afghan soldiers and police officers killed. These statistics not only highlight the immediate toll of conflict, but also underscore the ongoing humanitarian crisis it has precipitated in Afghanistan.
To end things off, I'm going to leave you with a poem to remind you of the sacrifices of our veterans. Because of you, I am here. Because of you, I am able to live freely. Yet I do not know you, yet I have done nothing for you. But there you stand, ready to fight, and there you are, prepared to die for me. You've fought before, and you'll fight again, for someone you don't know. So thank you, unknown soldier, for fighting for me, because I'm here because of you, and I owe you my future.